Hi, I'm Joshua. Today I'll break down the main softwares I use to produce music and the order I would buy them if I were starting out today. Hopefully this can be helpful for those of you who are starting out or looking into what tools to add to your collection. I've broken down the softwares into a tier list: Essential, Core, and Future Adds. The Essential tier contains the softwares that you need to get started on producing music. The Core tier contains tools that helped level up my production. And for the Future Adds, I added them to help my production in specific areas. For example, if I need more emulation from analog gear, or maybe I need certain samples, maybe strings or brass, I add those later down the line. I made a PDF containing all the tiers and softwares mentioned in this video. It's absolutely free. I'm gonna leave a link in the description. Feel free to grab it, download it, use it as a reference. Hopefully it's gonna be helpful for you. And before I talk about the tier list, I do want to mention that I think softwares are tools after all. And then the most important part of producing music is your creativity and vision. So these are just tools that help us achieve that. So let's get into it. Again, this tier list is basically my approach to producing. I'm going to just share my process and hopefully it's helpful for you. The single most important software you would need is a DAW, basically a digital audio workstation. There are different kinds and there are all sorts of debates on what's the best. For me, right now I use Studio One. So I'm just going to put this up here. I actually started out using Digital Performer and then changed to Logic, later on Pro Tools, for not just recording but writing and producing, and then later on Studio One. I find that Studio One really fits my way of working, and the reason I made the switch from Pro Tools is, for me personally, I feel like Studio One is faster in terms of writing and producing and easier integration with software instruments for me. But because I used to work at a studio using Pro Tools, I didn't want to lose my my chops in terms of the keyboard shortcuts and all that stuff. So the good thing about Studio One is I can customize the keyboard shortcuts. The way I have it customized is actually very similar to Pro Tools. The good thing is, whenever I have to go to the studio to, let's say, record vocals, I can, hop onto Pro Tools and I'm still familiar with all the shortcuts and everything. I think if you're starting out and if you're on a Mac, I would recommend looking into Logic, because Logic comes with a huge bundle of samples, so it's a very, very good way to get started. But other DAWs are also amazing, Ableton, FL Studio. So choose one that you like and see if they have a free version you can try. I think that's the best. Try it and see if you enjoy producing on it. For the Essential tier, I think for some people, basically all you need is a DAW, because it already has some sounds in it and some effects that you can use. But if I were starting out today, I highly recommend getting Complete from Native Instruments. I wouldn't say you can't produce music without Complete, but I want to put it here just to point out that I think it's a great bundle to get started, because Complete has a large amount of samples and effects in that one bundle. And it's actually not that expensive in my opinion. You should definitely look for sales in the summer and Black Friday sales. They have all sorts of instruments, organic ones, even synths, like massive. A lot of like drums, bass, guitar, a lot of samples, brass, strings, and a tons of effects, even guitar effects in Guitar Rig. So I think it's a great bargain for someone starting out. If you can afford it, I think it's a great starting point. Also, Kontakt is a very strong sampler that eventually you will have to get it because you want to get certain sample libraries that actually use Kontakt. Definitely consider it as something to get started in. Moving on to the Core tier, I would put Omnisphere here. For me, I use Omnisphere a lot, mainly because it provides you with a blend of sounds. So it can have a lot of organic sounding sounds without you knowing what instrument it is, because of all the crazy sound source that they come up with in Spectrasonics. It's especially great if you need to add textures, to add certain ear candy to your production. It's actually very versatile. You can even use it for a lot of synth sounds. It also has samples of analog synths and all that. So for me, it was one of the bigger purchases that I bought. It was expensive at the time to me when I was getting started, but I think it's definitely worth it. Moving on, I'm going to include another bundle that I've used since my early days of producing. And it is the Sound Toys bundle. Right now, I think it's on version 5. This bundle, it's definitely a great add. Of course, your DAW is going to come with the effects, the reverbs, the delay, maybe distortion plugin and all that. But Sound Toys take it into another level. So once you have your essential softwares, if you consider adding something, I think the Sound Toys bundle is definitely worth it. And recently their Super Plate is also really good. I use it on vocal sometimes. For me, I use Echo Boy a lot, and Decapitator, as well as Alter Boy and some of the other plugins. So it's very versatile and kind of can cover quote unquote all your bases for effects, at least for a long period of time. The next one I'm going to add to the list is Serum. Serum is one of the most popular synths out there these days. There are a lot of available commercial presets that you can buy for all sorts of sounds, let's say in certain EDM styles and all that. I use it a lot for synth type sounds. Basically, if you want like a modern synth sound, you can cover it. It's very versatile. Definitely highly recommended. The next one is Valhalla Vintage Verb, one of my favorites. This one is actually pretty cheap in my opinion. It's $50 and it has always been $50. It's very versatile because it has hall, plate, room, chambers, all sorts of reverb all in one. It's also very popular among top producers like Ian Kirkpatrick, who produced for Dua Lipa. He loves it. Our Stargate also uses it. So I find it very versatile, and if you have only getting one reverb plugin, to me this is the one to get you started. And then the next one I'm going to add is Isotope's Ozone. I would say you don't have to have it. Maybe your DAW already comes with mastering tools, but I think Ozone is a very good quote unquote mastering suite, so you can master your own songs. Of course, for like commercial releases, oftentimes labels or I would go ahead and hire a mastering engineer to do much better job than I do. But if you're mastering your own releases or demos, you want to add that final polish, final finish, Isotope Ozone I think is a great choice. It has a lot of the tools you need. I would say it has the full set of tools you need for the mastering chain. Compressors, multiband compressors, and limiters, saturators, imager. You can process a lot of stuff mid-side, so you can process the side signal and the mid signal differently. I highly recommend it if you need a set of tools to put a polish to your tracks at the end. The next tool I'm going to add is actually, I wouldn't say it's core for everyone, but it's core for me because I do quite a lot of productions requiring a piano. To me, having a very solid and nice piano is very important. The one I use is actually called Ravenscroft by VI Labs. I really like this piano because it's rich. I want to use the word clean, even though we don't always think of the word clean as a good thing, but it's not thin. It's airy on top, but it's also has that growl in the bass. It's very full sounding and very nicely sampled. To me, you can do powerful pop ballads with it, and then also if you want to do more like R&B or jazzy type fast passages, it can also handle that. So to me, that's a very good solid choice as a piano. Of course, Complete also has several pianos in there already, so you don't have to have it. I think it really depends on what kind of music you do, and I'm sure the pianos in Complete can do a great job too, but I'm just going to give you my personal recommendation for the core tier. The other one I highly recommend is Spitfire Chamber Strings Essentials. Spitfire makes a lot of great strings libraries. They come in all sorts of sizes, large ensembles and quartet and all that. For me, if you're doing pop, Spitfire Chamber Strings Essentials is a great choice. It's intimate for pop, It's not too big, but if you want it to sound big, it can do that too. And before, they actually did not have this Essentials version. Now that there's an Essentials version, you can actually own this for like $200, and I think it's even cheaper if you catch it in a sale in Black Friday or some sort of other sales. So highly recommend it. It basically covers the violin 1, violin 2, viola, cello, and the double bass, I think. Yes. Basically, I think it has most of the main articulations you need for pop. Of course, if you're doing film scoring, you probably need a more elaborate library. Maybe you need different sizes, you need bigger ones to do those big Hollywood blockbuster type sound. But if you're doing pop, I think this is definitely a great choice. I also own the Spitfire Studio Strings. So if you want a larger ensemble, you can consider that. But if you're just getting one, I highly recommend this one. Okay, moving on to the future adds tier. For me, Trillion has been a great addition to my collection. I use it a lot, not just for acoustic and the electric bass actually. I use it a lot for synth bass as well. It has nicely sampled analog synth bass, and the electric bass also sounds great. Of course, there are tons of selections out there. There's another manufacturer, Ample Sound, that makes great bass and guitars as well. But Trillion, I think it's a very good solid choice that covers all bases for bass. Trillion is also quite popular among top producers. Charlie Puth used it in the song Attention, in that chorus drop where there's only the bass playing. When I first heard it, I thought it's a real bass player, but apparently it's made using Trillion. So it's definitely of very high quality. Another sample library from Spectrasonics is Keyscape. I got that actually fairly recently. I didn't get it when it was released because I had other tools at the time that I thought would cover what it covers, but now that I got it, it's definitely great. It's great for roads or lots of electric pianos, but it also has nice grand piano sounds too. And what I love about it is there is something called Keyscape Creative, which is a set of presets that they generated using the sound sources from the Keyscape library. So basically they use these piano sounds, manipulate them, and they can change into pads or all sorts of textures. And you can even further manipulate them in Omnisphere if you have it. So that's a great combination to have if you already own Omnisphere. Another great sample, well, not sample, I guess it's a synth emulation library, is V Collection by Arturia. V Collection is great if you are doing a lot of the retro synth type sounds. Of course, it would be nice to own the real thing. If we can buy it and put it in the studio, I would love that too. But this is a way to get a glimpse of the sounds you can make from retro synths. There's a Juno in there, Jupiter, all sorts of synths that I'm not very familiar with, but I love the sound of. I use it a lot in songs that call for it. So, nowadays with a lot of songs being disco influenced, V Collection comes in very handy. Arturia actually makes really, really nice softwares, not just for samples. They even have effects that I actually also own. I didn't mention it in this tier list, but I do have their effects collection. That's nice too, so you should check that out. Moving on, Valhalla Delay. Valhalla Delay is also, for me, it's more of a recent add because I've used Echo Boy for a long time and I feel like I could do everything in Echo Boy, so I haven't gotten another delay plugin until a friend recommended Valhalla Delay to me. And when I got it, I really love it. It actually sounds different from Echo Boy. I think it brings something different. I love that they have this thing called the diffusion amount, which basically can make your delay sounds like a reverb. You know how you sometimes would add a reverb plugin after a delay plugin to give it that, additional spaciness so that it's sitting further back in the mix. You can just do that with the diffusion amount, which is very interesting. So I love it. I use it a lot, especially for vocals. To me, it's very modern sounding, but in an analog way. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's not completely clean, but it's great for pop production. I think I saw a video of a producer of The Weeknd using it on The Weeknd's vocals. I forgot what song. I might have to look that up and then put it up here. But anyways, the producer used Valhalla Delay for The Weeknd's vocals. So this one is also very cheap. Love Valhalla's plugins, $50 each. Definitely go support them. The next one I will add to the list is Plugin Alliance. I think Plugin Alliance is great if you want to add emulations of analog gear into your production. For stock plugins, they are great, and usually they are more on the clean side. And then later on, as you produce more, you find yourself starting to want certain sounds or certain vibe. Plugin Alliance can bring that analog flavor into the mix for you. They have a lot of plugins. I do not have their subscription, but you can consider that. I think their subscription plan is also quite nice because you can subscribe for a year, and then at the end of the year, they give you a certain number of license for free, and you can use it perpetually. Basically, even if you stop your subscription, you can still keep those plugins. I think that's really good. Some of the ones I like is Black Box. I also like the Shadow Hills Mastering Compressor. And I also use this Optocom sometimes to crush the drums. Lots of great stuff here. And then the next one on the list, I will put the Fab Filter on here. Fab Filter is actually very popular among producers. I don't have a whole lot of their plugins. I have Saturn 2 and I use it a lot. It's a saturation plugin, and even though it can do a lot of rhythmic and more like creative type effects, I find that I use the saturation a lot when I want some more presence from a certain instrument. You know, instead of turning it up in volume, you can use saturation and it can bring it up in a different way, and it doesn't eat up your headroom per se. And then I also use Pro MB a lot because there's a sidechain function. I use it to duck certain frequencies. You know, for example, you can use it for ducking the sub frequencies in the bass, using the kick. A lot of people use it for vocals too. You can duck certain frequencies in vocals or in reverb, that sort of thing. So definitely want to get more of their plugins, maybe in the future. Another one I want to add to the mix is Shaperbox by Cable Guy. Shaperbox is actually quite easy to understand because visually you can see what it's doing to the signal. It's simple, but you can be very creative with it. A very basic function would be, you know, the volume doing the sidechain pump type thing, but you can do a lot more using filters and all sorts of stuff. I think I still want to dive in deeper in Shaperbox. I use it a lot, but I don't think I have used all of its capabilities yet, so I'm looking forward to using it more in my production. And then at the end, I put Universal Audio, mainly referring to the plugins by UAD. I actually stayed away from UAD plugins for quite a long time because I didn't like plugins that were tied to hardware gear. At the time, I was using another interface and I didn't use UAD interface. So I didn't want to get into that whole world because it requires, you know, hardware to run it. But recently, UAD has released their plugins in native form. So that's great news for all of us. So I have started collecting some of that and started using it. They sound great. I love the LA2A, the 1176. I think their distressor is great. Oh, and I do use the Fairchild quite a bit too. Lots of great quality plugins. I think the normal price is kind of high, so definitely look for sales in Black Friday or like sometimes sales that they run. Also, you should check out Plugin Boutique. For example, for Black Friday, they have a specific bundle that was actually not available in the UAD website, but it was available in Plugin Boutique. This video is actually not sponsored by Plugin Boutique, but I thought it's good to know if you're looking for UAD plugins, look for them in the sale. So yeah, that's kind of like the main softwares that I use. I do use other softwares in addition to this, but I think this is a good list to get started on. Hopefully you would find it helpful because I think it's very overwhelming when we first get started that there are all sorts of sample libraries, all sorts of effects bundle. Not sure where to start, and getting all of them is of course very expensive. So I think you want to start with a good DAW and then build your pieces one by one. I definitely do not recommend getting like too many softwares right at once because sometimes you don't know what you need until you start producing music. So take your time to get to know the softwares that you get and then slowly add them one by one. As mentioned before, I made a PDF of the full list of the softwares and tier list that I mentioned. It's completely free and you can download it by clicking on the link in the description. I started this channel to build a community of aspiring producers and songwriters so that you can make the music you love and achieve professional results. If that sounds interesting to you, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, see you soon.